Bernie Sanders is back, fresh off of the mega rally in Queens with AOC. Here he is on Jimmy Kimmel explaining why we need to have full health care for everybody, period.
You speak very honestly on these subjects. I think you are very blunt and brutally honest, almost to the point where it's shocking to see a politician say, yes, this is going to make your taxes go up. But in the big picture, I think that it will make it cost you less.
Right. Look, here is the reality. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. I believe that health care is a human right and not a privilege. And what that means is we need all that we need to do. People make this more complicated than it is. Medicare right now is the most popular health insurance program in America. I want to expand Medicare to include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses. And then what I want to do is lower the eligibility age first year from 65 down to 55, then to 45, then to 35, and then we cover everybody. And when we do that, there are no more premiums. You're not paying any more premiums, no more co-payments, no more deductibles, no more out-of-pocket expenses. And virtually every person in this country will save money on health care because we are currently spending twice as much per person as the people of any other major country. And the reason for that is that the function of the healthcare system today, shock of all shocks, is to make the drug companies and the insurance companies incredibly rich. Well, I don't think that's the function of healthcare. So if you are paying, just as an example, if somebody who is self-employed today is paying $15,000, $20,000 a year in premiums and out-of-pocket expenses, that's all gone. Well, they may pay $7,000 or $8,000 more in taxes. They're $12,000 to the good. And that's what we have got to do. We have to do what every other country does, is make sure that anybody can go to any doctor they want, whenever they want, and not worry about the cost of health care.
Perfectly put. This is something that he's been fighting for with clarity and consistency for 40 years. He's absolutely right. And I just want to say, I mean, notice the difference here. I sympathize with Warren's resistance of the tax framing question because it's a fundamentally right-wing way of asking the question. However, and of course, it's still unclear what her actual health care plan is. I've actually even heard that it might involve a VAT, which is extremely regressive if that turns out to be the case.
She's talked so many circles around it that it's really concerning to me.
I mean, yes, and there's some sound that we'll get to in the latter part of the show. I'm not clear where she is on this issue. I'm sure she'll put forward something that's better than the status quo. Biden has put forward something that's better than the status quo. But I want to just say that getting tripped up, the refusal and the transparent concern about, oh, well, if I say there will be middle-class tax cuts, it will be clipped, a tax increase, it will be clipped in an ad and played in November. That's true. But you get caught in playing these word games and going around in circles about that one specific word, even as, again, I sympathize with her resistance to it. But Bernie right there, it's clean. Yes, you might pay $7,000 more in taxes. You'll save several, at least maybe even more, several thousand in private health insurance costs. Boom, done, simple, it. So you make the same point, you bring the same clarity, but you also, you don't invite the look of being a sort of prevaricating politician. And I think, again, this is one of those issues. You can go back literally to the 1970s. He was making exactly the same point. He was right then. He's right now. He's absolutely right about the implementation. I remember when Sanders' bill got unveiled and the Jayapal bill got unveiled in the House, even the sort of Voxes of the world at the time were like, okay, this is how you do it. These are real policy proposals. They're profound. They're not that difficult to implement at all. And there's a clear timeline. And again, it covers absolutely every single person. fully, including mental health, dental health, and eye care. That's what we need.
Yep. And when you get out in front of the question like that, little twerps like Mayor Pete can't make an issue out of it. Like, no, you're not being honest about the costs. Like, yes, you are.
Right, exactly. And then we can go to a dishonest little twerp like Mayor Pete and we can say how Medicare for all who want it is a public option, which you're not being clear about how it's going to compete, how it's going to work with the broader regulatory environment for insurance companies. It's still going to leave millions of people vulnerable and overcharged. It almost certainly will continue, a rate of people dying premature deaths. After several year decline, it looks like uninsured rates are starting to move back up a bit. So you have to explain to us, Mayor Pete, why you still want to leave millions of people vulnerable and underinsured, and also why, you talk about being young and thinking about different things. I mean, Mayor Pete is giving us the progressive option of 2007. How about we go with the progressive option of 2019 that someone like Bernie Sanders has been right about and clear about for 40 years?